When you shift from one dantian to the other, from the hara or the muladhara to the agya chakra, you're shifting from ego to soul. And so a totally different dynamic happens, and that's why it's so simple, because the ego complex doesn't have jurisdiction over the third eye. It's free, and doesn't have karma, and doesn't have the knot of that ego complex to have to unravel. The problem for Sat yogis, unlike the sages who are on the wall, most of them had very pious parents and were raised in very religious, spiritual environments, and raised in a relatively functional family system. That is not true for most of the Sat yogis, okay? Most people here have broken homes, or no father, or some problem that is a deeper kind of trauma than was experienced by those beings who were liberated relatively easily. And when your trauma happens in the intrauterine state, as it did for you, and as it does has for a number of beings, even before birth, because you were not wanted, and you were not wanted as female, and you were not wanted at all because it was messing up people's lives. It was an accident. They didn't want you, right? When that sense then of being a problem, and undeserving of life, and a mistake, right? That becomes an essential identity of the ego. And it's so painful and so shameful and withering inside and self-destructive that one then has to create defenses around it and compensations and develop ego strategies that will project the anger that one feels out and the sadness out, and all of that traumatic energy has to be put outside so you're not constantly caving in and collapsing internally. And then once you have done that, you can't be in touch with yourself any longer, not in an authentic way, but you're acting from the defenses or from the trauma, and there's agony, or there's anger, or there's some other kind of relationality that is not controllable and is constantly going to repeat that sense of traumatic non-relation with the other that was causative of the ego's formation. And when the traumas are chronic, and they continue not only in the intrauterine but throughout childhood, and traumas are added to it by other kinds of events, and there isn't the support of the parental field, and there isn't the kind of mentoring and the kind of love that one needs to feel connected and like one belongs in the world and life, then the type of knot and complex becomes so multi-layered in order to be able to function with all of these sedimented layers of negativity and hatred and self-hatred, that one has to do a lot of work before one can even get to that level of soul consciousness where one feels free. But it's very hard to sustain it, and there's an oscillation back and forth. But the more you meditate and get to the bliss, the more you're also going to release the trauma into your space. And so the ecstasy will always be accompanied with agony until it's all released. And there's a lot of it if you have been traumatized since an early age. A lot of releasing, obviously, as you know, has to go on. And it can only be accelerated by a total surrender of the ego itself. But this is, it can't be done by the ego, because the ego doesn't even feel worthy of surrender, nor because of the terrible nature of the events, is there even love of God. One feels God has betrayed you, you know, abandoned you, left you for dead, and all of that. So to experience a sense of love for God is difficult. Now you've overcome those obstacles very beautifully, but now there has to be that total surrender of the core of the I thought that feels that unworthiness, and to realize, as I was saying to Kin, the same issue of the fact of your being born in that kind of a situation does not imply that you deserve to suffer. What it means is that you were chosen for a very difficult assignment because of the high nature of your angelic being, that you could tolerate it and turn all of that into wisdom and into the power to be a healer in the world. And so now is the moment for you to let go of that last little knot of negativity and darkness and become the fullness of the angel and the avatar that you really are. I think now is the moment that's going to happen. Thank you.